Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus. I hope you had a great trading week, and if you didn't have a good trading week, just stay calm. There's going to be a lot of opportunities next week or the week after that. So the market is always here, it's not running. So if you didn't have a good week, just stay calm. There's going to be other opportunities for you to capitalize on. Alright, let's do a trade recap and I'll show you what I had for this week. So let's start with gold. So coming into this week, I think I showed you guys I had this trade on gold. I think that was on the 9th of October. I went in on the buys on this pair, and I'll tell you, so this is what I was expecting. I was looking at these highs here to get taken out, and price did exactly that. So those highs got taken out and price is still moving to the upside. But let me show you the trade management thing. So I had my stop loss move to break even at this point right here. Once we had price moving to the upside, so I had my stops move to break even, and after that I closed this trade at say plus 3.72%, and price, as I told you guys, is still moving to the upside. But you need to secure what you can secure. You wait for prices to pull back and you look for other entries. Alright, so that's it for me on gold. I had one other trade, and that was on NAS. I took this one today, so I went in on the sales on this. So I had my sales here and I was looking for prices to come down, just like a temporary sell thing. But I actually closed this position and I'll show you. So I closed this as say minus 0.1%. I think it's like barely say break even, and I'll show you because I saw something on the DXY I didn't like, so I had to close this trade. Alright, so let's look at the DXY actually. So let's move on to the analysis for next week. So I had just gold. That was the only trade running for me this week, and I attempted the sales on NAS today and I closed it. So basically I haven't really done a lot this week apart from trade management. So sometimes it's actually good for you to sit on your hands and just watch how price is playing out. If you don't see, if your setups are not there, just allow it. And there's a lot of people out there who have setups and stuff like that, but you know the market is like a cycle thing. So they have setups right now and you're just sitting and watching. When you probably have setups, those guys will also be waiting for pullbacks or certain things, or closing other positions they're in already. Alright guys, so let's look at the DXY. This is the daily time frame on the DXY. So two things we're looking at here on the DXY. The first thing is there a psychological level we can work with, and is there a trend line we can work with? So looking at it at this point right now, I'll show you guys what I was looking at last week. So we had these sales coming in from last week. We had a violation, and I was expecting prices to react at 102, at 103. So we could see prices coming down to 102 and eventually go lower than 102. So it didn't happen this way. So this area of 103 wasn't respected. Price went through 103 impulsively, and currently we're trading between 104 and 103. So looking at this right now on the daily time frame, so if you look at this piece of price action and this one, so the quick question is there a trend we can work with currently from the daily time frame? And the answer is no, because if you look at this, you can't really say there's a trend here, because for you to have a trend you need higher highs, higher lows and stuff like this, or stuff like this for a downtrend. Okay, so you have a low, lower high, lower low and stuff like that. So on the daily time frame, all I see is an impulsive move to the upside, taking out 103, and we haven't tested 104. So all I can do right now is use the other concept, which is psychological levels. Yeah, I'm a little bit tired today guys, so alright, so all I can do right now is use the other concept, which is psychological levels. So price is currently trading at say, let's look at this. You have 103 right here, and then you have 104. So if we can make, like, if we can decide, or if we can tell what price is going to do between this area of 103 and 104, it makes it easy. But my primary bias stays the same from last week, so I was still expecting prices to move to the downside, and that's because I'm going to show you. And that's because if you have say an extended move, so if price is selling like this, making lower lows and lower highs, and you get a pop out of it, you should expect the sellers to attempt the sales again just for you to see and say, all right, cool, these sales are eventually coming to an end, and you might have buyers stepping in. So it's the same thing I'm looking at right here. So we've had this extensive sales, right here, and we had a pop out. So we should expect a pullback to come in, and if for any reason buyers decide to take prices to the upside, you need a pullback to come in for the buyers to react again. So I'm still looking at sales on the DXY. Now looking at it on the daily time frame, if we start selling, the first area we have to move to has to be the psychological level of 103, and if we go through 103, then we should look at 102. It's the same thing I was looking at last week. The only difference is price did an extended push again to the upside to probably test 104. So when I move progressively to lower time frames, what I'm looking at is this piece of price action right here, and the question I'm asking myself is there any indication that price is coming to an end, or like these buys are coming to an end? So if we step down, say, to the 8-hour time frame right here, so we start looking at the 8-hour time frame, and you can see like the details now, it starts becoming clearer. So you see you have this impulsive move, you have a pullback, there's another impulsive move, there's a pullback, impulse, pullback, impulse, pullback, impulse, pullback. So I'll keep watching this impulse and pullbacks until we get a violation. So once we get a violation of this move to the upside, we should expect sales to come in, and 103, 102, these are the areas I'm actually paying attention to. All right, so we'll look at this again on the 4-hour time frame, and what you see on the 4-hour time frame is not different from what's happening on the 8-hour time frame. So now you have impulse here, you have a pullback, you have an impulse, pullback, impulse, pullback, 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 and stuff like this. So on the hourly time frame, I'll show you what I'm looking on the hourly time frame. So this piece right here is what I'm paying attention to on the hourly time frame. So let's step down to the hourly time frame, and I think because I have a trend line here I can work with, and this is just going to tell me, it's like an early indication thing, like, hey, be careful, the buys you're looking at might probably be coming to an end. So when you look at it from the hourly time frame, we had a pullback here, we had this massive move to the upside, that's the impulse. You have a correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So you normally, if the hourly time frame is supposed to hold and maintain the buys to the upside, we should get another impulsive move from here, taking prices to the upside. So currently what I'll see on the hourly time frame, is price breaking out of the hourly time frame. Now this is not conclusive, so it doesn't tell you sellers are ready to take prices to the downside. So if you look at this right here, you had price pulling back, you had this pop out of this, and then you had prices moving to the upside. So this could simply be another pop right here, and you still see prices moving to the upside. So it's not conclusive at this point to say prices moving to the downside, or to say the sellers are stepping in. So having this idea on the DXY, I'm going to say just sit and watch what is happening on the DXY, but I know from the higher time frame, from the daily time frame, I'm expecting sales to come in, but then I need this other time frame to actually show me what's happening. So all right, watch this. If we see the DXY continuing like with these sales to the downside, then it makes the whole story different, because at this point you can tell, all right, cool, price is actually moving to the downside. But right now it's quite difficult for us to make the decision, or for us to call those shots right now and say the DXY is moving to the downside. So personally, I'll wait to see what's happening on the hourly time frame. So in a situation like this, I'll use the hourly time frame just to guide my decision on the DXY, because it's quite difficult at this point to really tell what's happening. So there's also a possibility we could see this guy buying again, and you see like this inability around this point, or the inability around this point for the sellers to come in. So there's a lot that can happen on the DXY, but currently this is the trend I'm looking on the DXY. This trend, if we get a violation like this, then it's an early indication for sellers to step in. So I'm going to watch the DXY really closely and see what's happening, but I'll look at it like really, I'll be really careful with this one. Like this time I need to be careful because there's just a lot that can happen on the DXY. All right, cool. So if you look at it again, we're currently playing from say 103 to like 104. So buyers are moving from 103 to 104. We haven't got into 104 and we had this pullbacks coming in, and right now I think we're just halfway, like 50% of the move. So price has pulled back to like 50% of this entire move right here. So it's still very early to tell where this is going to go to. So if you wait just a little bit, price is going to give you more price action. So in a situation like this, we need more price action to make a decision. So this can fall from here, as I told you, and go all the way to like 103, or you probably see price drop down, move up, and then you see a move to 103. So this is a very big possibility on the DXY. So I'll keep this one right here and we'll look at other pairs. So I'll look at say US30. All right, let's look at US30. So when you look at US30 and these other pairs, I think it just makes the analysis on the DXY clearer. So let me go back to the DXY and show you this on the daily time frame. So I'll put this on the daily time frame. So remember, on the daily time frame, this is what I'm looking at. You have massive sales break, expect sales for buyers to attempt or for sellers to take out this area. That's it. So we have this, and that's what we're looking at on the DXY on the daily time frame. So I'm still expecting this guy to sell. Now if it starts selling, I'm looking at say 103 and 102. So this is what we've looked at already on the daily time frame on the DXY, and we've made this conclusion. So we'll step back to US30. Now when you look at what's happening on the DXY and you look at the price action on US30 and these other pairs, I think it reinforces the analysis on the DXY. So looking at this, what's price currently doing? You have an impulse, you have a correction, impulse, correction, impulse. We should wait for a correction. So the simple question I have is, this is what I like asking myself every time I pick a pair and I'm doing like the market focus or I'm doing a top-down analysis. So where is price currently at, and where is price most likely going to gravitate to? So price is currently trading around the 43,000 level. So the next level has to be 44,000, so somewhere around here. So let's make this easy. I'll edit this one, put this around 44, like right here. Cool. So looking at it from the daily time frame, this is very easy. On the daily time frame, you have an impulse correction, impulse correction. We have another impulse right here, so we should wait for a correction to come in, and we look for buys, and the next area price can go to has to be 44,000. So this is a game plan for me on US30. So it's like looking at what's happening right now, it means you need to sit on your hands for a couple of days, because this is the daily time frame. So you should expect prices to pull back, say maybe 4 to 5 days. It could take price 4 to 5 days to pull back to an area like this. So that's very possible. So you need to sit down and see what's happening. So if I do something like this, it took price about 7 days for this to come back. It took price about 8 days for this. So you could expect say 6-7 days for this pullbacks to come in as well. For this pullbacks to come in on say on US30. So just looking at it from the daily time frame, it makes it very easy. All right, I'm going to take this out. So I always use this just to give me like an idea of what's actually happening. So looking at it again from the daily time frame, you have this impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse, wait for the correction so we can take the buys and take out the highs it's going to make, and the next level we're looking at is 44,000 right here. So that's the analysis on the daily time frame. We'll look at the lower time frames and see. So on the 8-hour time frame, so this is the 8-hour time frame on US30. So the same thing that like the same thing I'm looking at on the daily time frame. Impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, wait for the correction. So once you start stepping down to lower time frames, this is the area I'm paying attention to. So the first thing is we have a psychological level right here, and that's 43,000, this one. So I'm looking at this area and I'm paying attention to it. So if price starts pulling back, I'm looking at this psychological level, I'm looking at this trend line. So price is going to do something really crazy, like consolidate, pull back. So it's going to give you this messy, so you see like the same thing here, it's going to be like choppy. So you see price just doing stuff like this, and if it stays above this area, if price stays above this area, putting in this structure which resembles this structure right here, then it becomes very easy for us to take the buys, and the next area has to be 44,000. So if you understand, again, look at the DXY. I'm expecting massive sales to come in on the DXY. It's going to take a couple of days for it to happen, but once these sales start coming in on the DXY, this are like the trade on US30. I'm looking at it for a long-term move, so I'm expecting prices to keep moving to the upside. So currently it's going to move to the upside, and then it's going to stop moving to the upside, pull back, give you this consolidation, make it very difficult for you to trade. But once the consolidation comes to an end, somewhere around here, I'll look at the psychological level and the trend line, and we'll reattempt the buys again, take out these highs, and the next level has to be 44,000. So that's what I'm looking at on US30. So I can step down to maybe lower time frames just to see, but the lower you go, it becomes really tricky as well. You have more price to play with, you see things like the picture becomes clearer, but it's also very tempting for you to get in prematurely. So we'll step down to the 4-hour time frame, which I wouldn't really recommend currently. All right, so looking at it right here, so you can use the 4-hour time frame. I'll show you what you can do on the 4-hour time frame. If you put a trend line right here, so same thing, you have a move, correction, move, correction, move, correction. Once you see this trend line getting violated, you should expect sales to come in. Once you see this trend line getting violated, you should expect sales to come in. Now the 43,000 level, which is the psychological level right here, is what I'm looking at. But remember, from the 8-hour time frame and the daily time frame, you have price moving to the upside. So all you're waiting for is for price to break out of this. So I'm going to show you. You can look at this trend line right here. So you look at this trend line right here on the 4-hour time frame. Yeah, on the 4-hour time frame. So price is going to pull back, and keep making buys or keep making moves to the upside. But once you get a violation of that area, you should expect prices to sell, give you a test of this 43,000 level, and then you have in mind like, all right, cool, price is still moving to the upside until the 8-hour time frame and the daily time frame. So if you combine this trend line and the psychological number, if price comes back to an area like this, then we're looking for buys, take out the highs that price created, and we'll look at the next psychological level, which is 44,000. So that's what I'm looking at on US30. I think it's a very easy play, and you can step down to the hourly as well. All right, cool. So on the hourly time frame, so this is a very quick question I think somebody asked me. So if price is moving to the upside and give you this pullbacks on the hourly time frame, does it mean you should look for buys on this areas like this on the hourly time frame? And the answer is simple. If you are trading, let's say intraday, of your scalping, then you can use the hourly time frame and go in for buys like this, because it's very easy. Price is moving to the upside. Let's see, it's very easy. Price is moving to the upside, pull back, or you have an impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So you can do these buys if you're trading on lower time frames, if you're scalping and doing stuff like that. But I'm looking at very big moves, because I'm using, say, the daily time frame. And if you're using the daily time frame, then the hourly time frame is just there for me, let's say, for entries, and it's not there for me to pick a trend or a direction to play with. So my direction comes from the daily time frame, and this is what I'm looking at: impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. I'm waiting for this correction to take buys again. 44,000, that's the level I'm looking at. So currently I'm just going to sit on my hands on this one as well and wait for prices to pull back. So yeah, now I could take the sells when it starts pulling back, but it's very risky and it needs a lot of skill to pull that off. So if you try to sell US30 right now, you need a lot of price action, you need a lot to line up for you to take those sells. So long term for me on US30, I'm expecting prices to pull back and we'll look for buying opportunities. So that's it for me on US30. All right, let's look at, say, NAS. Now, so most of these indices, there's a lot of pullbacks that we need to wait for, and I'll show you the position I was looking at on NAS. So when I took the sells this morning, I'll show you guys what I was looking at and why I closed it eventually. So have in mind again, guys, we're expecting the DXY to sell massively. All right, cool. So what's happening on NAS100? You have an impulse, you have a correction, you have an impulse, you had a correction. So personally, I would like my correction to come back to the trend line so I can take this buys. So it mimics this one and it mimics this. So it's just like a bearing that is giving you like this advantage. Is telling you, all right, cool, if price gets back to an area like this, it's easy to buy because that area is proven to protect price. All right, cool. So that's what I'm looking at on NAS100. That's a daily time frame. So quick question, like 2 questions. Is there a trend line you can work with? Is there a psychological level you can work with? So looking at this, price is currently trading above 20k, so right here. So the next level price has to go to has to be 21,000. Now the the difficulty is actually understanding how price is going to move from 20,000 to 21,000, and that's where it becomes really difficult and really confusing. So these are the possibilities for me. Now the first thing is, we went through, so came from, say, 19,000, we went through 20,000, tried to sell, buyers came back up. So when you look at this, like, look at price from your highest time frame, let the highest time frame tell you what prices are trying to do, and then you can play with lower time frames. So looking at this from the daily time frame, this is very easy. So you have an impulse, you have a correction, right? You have another impulse, you should wait for a correction to come in for you to buy. Now if we buy in this pair, so where is price most likely going to gravitate to? It has to be the 21,000 level. Where is price most likely going to pull back to? It has to be this psychological level of 20,000 and this trend line. So now here is the game plan for me on NAS100 for next week. Here is the game plan. Because I know price has given me the impulse and the correction, and this is an impulse, I'm waiting for a correction. So the game plan coming into next week is wait for prices to fail. Wait for prices to fail with it, like with the move to the upside. If there's an inability for price to move to the upside and you can see it clearly, all right, price is finding it difficult to move to the upside, it means sellers will come in, but these sells will be temporary sells. You wait for these temporary sells to an area like this and the trend line, everything. The next level has to be 21,000. Now let me show you something. Let's see. Let me see if there's a previous thing I can show you guys. Let's see. All right, there's no previous price action I can show you, so there's something I'm actually looking for right here. So once the pullbacks start coming in, it is going to give you very complex pullbacks. So you could see something like this, price just coming down. This is an easy one, testing the psychological level, testing the trend line, and you see prices buying, taking out the highs here all the way to 21,000. That's very easy. Now the complex one is, you could see prices reacting around this area. So it's just bouncing off of an area like this, consolidating, and then eventually buying again. So what I like telling people is, if this starts playing out, so if this price starts coming down and it's consolidating, doing all of this, just hold on a little bit, because you're buying here, it might be difficult for prices to take out this. But if you wait, if you're patient enough, let prices pull back, do its thing, consolidate, do all this beautiful stuff, you're waiting for prices right around here, then it becomes very easy for you to take those buys again to the upside. So long-term move for me on NAS100 is to see prices testing 2100. So temporal moves for me will be to see prices selling back to this psychological level of 20,000, testing this psychological level, testing this trend line, more confluence, more confidence, and then you look for buys again to the upside. So that's my analysis on NAS100. You can move to lower time frames and see or make sense of what's happening, but it just makes a lot of noise. So as you move to lower time frame, it's a lot of noise like this, a lot of price action, and it becomes really noisy. And that's why sometimes when I do the market focus thing, or once I'm just looking at price and doing my personal focus and stuff, I stay on higher time frames, the 8-hour time frame and the daily time frame. I pick these directions from there, and every other thing that's happening is just temporal for me. So looking at it on the 8-hour time frame, again, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, wait for this to come back to an area like this. So all of this is just going to confuse you. So if price doesn't come back, all right, cool. So let's look at this. You have this impulse, you have this correction. If price does this and pulls back and moves again to the upside, how do you trade something like this? You can use, say, lower time frames like the 4-hour time frame, because on the 4-hour time frame we had this impulse, correction, impulse. You could see something lining up for a trend on the 4-hour time frame to take prices to the upside. So that's another thing. You can use lower time frames just to see if there's something you can work with, but personally I would say hold on, just wait for price to give you this pullbacks. Like, use the higher time frame, wait for prices to pull back to the higher time frame, trend line, psychological level, and when you take this buys, it's actually going to take out any high that price created, and it's going to be very easy for you to test 21,000. So let's look at, say, the hourly. There's just so much noise. All right, cool. So this is what I was telling you guys about. I did attempt sales on this, so I had my sales right here, and I was expecting prices to take out this area, test this area, so we can take the buys. So I didn't like the price action because of what was happening on the DXY, so I'll close this. So I closed this position already, so I closed it once price got to an area like this. So I took the sales here and I closed it right around here. So I didn't like the price action on the DXY, and the reason is because the DXY is already breaking out of the hourly trend line. So you could see sales coming in on the DXY, and this would mean buys on something like NAS100. So I'm going to sit on my hands for this one and wait to see what's going to happen. So I need more price action to have a proper direction, to have a proper trade on this one. So back to the daily time frame, I think the best analysis on NAS100 you can do, just look at the daily time frame. It makes it very easy. Impulse, correction, impulse, wait for the correction, take the buys. We're looking at 21,000, and we're looking at pullbacks all the way to like 20,000 and this trend line. So if this happens, and then we're going for the buys. So that's my focus on NAS100. All right, so let's look at, say, the S&P. The S&P. So the S&P500, looking at this from the daily time frame as well. So what's price currently doing? So we've had this impulse, correction, impulse, we had this impulse. So we should wait for price to test an area like this. So if you're looking for like long-term moves on the S&P, long-term moves on NAS, wait for price to test the daily trend. So if price gives you a test of those areas, then you can play the long-term moves. Now temporal moves would probably be, say, if you step down to the 8-hour time frame. So this is the area I'm looking on the 8-hour time frame, something like this. So on the 8-hour time frame, you see there's an impulse correction, there's an impulse, and price is pulling back to an area like this. Now looking at this right here, it looks like price is consolidating, so sellers might be stepping in already on the 8-hour time frame. So I won't be surprised if you see this area taken out. So this could be an early sign for prices to sell before you see buyers coming in. So this is obviously going to align with what's happening on the daily time frame, because if you step back to the daily time frame, something like this. So looking at it again long term, impulse, correction, impulse. So all of this for me is just an impulse on the daily time frame. So I'm going to do impulse, correction, impulse, and I'm waiting for the prices to pull back to an area like this for us to reattempt the buys. So an early indication for this pullbacks to come in, step down to lower time frames like the 8-hour time frame and the 4-hour time frame. So we did the 8-hour time frame already, so I'm going to step back to the 8-hour time frame. So this is a trend I'm looking at: impulse, correction, impulse. There's that inability around this area, so we could see sellers coming in. If this area gets taken out, expect those sellers to push a little bit lower, so you can align with the daily trend line and the psychological level around that area. So I'll look at this on the 4-hour time frame. So in a situation like this, just as I told you guys on NAS100, I would rather stay on, say, the higher time frames to make my analysis, to get the bias, to get the direction and everything, and I'll wait for prices to pull back or sell on lower time frames. So looking at it again, the 4-hour time frame, so price is making this moves to the upside, but then there's this difficulty around this area, so I'm still expecting sales to come in, some sales before we look for the buys. So that's what I'm looking at on the S&P. So on the hourly time frame, this is my entry time frame, and I hardly do analysis on the hourly time frame, so this is it. So let's look at this on the hourly time frame. So we had an impulse right here, we had sellers stepping in, we had prices moving again to the upside, we had sellers stepping in, we still have prices moving again to the upside, and we should expect sellers to step in. So this could present, let's say, temporary sales on this pair, but just so we can test 5800. Now this is not a sell I'll probably take. So again, on the S&P 500, I'll sit on my hands. So I need more price action. So if we come into next week, say Monday or Tuesday, and we see what price is doing and what the DXY is doing, then it's going to make it very easy to play with a pair like this. The long-term move for me on the S&P 500, I just have to wait for prices to pull back to this daily trend line. I'll look at the psychological level around there. You combine all these things and then it makes it very easy for you. So we're currently playing at, say, we're playing between 5800 and 5900. So long-term, impulse, correction, impulse, wait for the correction for us to take buys again on this pair. So that's what I'm looking at on the S&P 500. So I'm waiting for corrections to come in. And the last pair for us to look at has to be gold. Let's look at gold. All right, cool. So I think this guy is taking off already like crazy. So what's price doing on the daily time frame? Where is price most likely going to gravitate to? All right, cool. So those questions, once you answer these questions, it makes it very easy. Now on the daily time frame, what's price currently doing? There's an impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. Wait for this correction for you to play the long-term move again. So long-term move on gold, you have to wait for the correction to come in, then you look for buys. But then let's step down to, like, say, the 8-hour time frame and see what's happening. So I have this area I'm watching on the 8-hour time frame. So same thing on the daily time frame, you're looking at impulse, correction, and stuff like that. On the 8-hour time frame as well, I have this impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse again, wait for the correction. So, and I'll show you how to anticipate these moves on lower time frames. It's the same thing I've been explaining. So wait for this impulse, wait for the correction. So looking at this, so looking at gold, where is the next level this can move to? So let's edit this 2500, that was 26, 27, so let's get to like 28. So 28. So stepping back to the daily time frame, quick question right here. Price is currently playing at, say, 2700 right here. So we're trading at 2700. Using these principles of psychological levels, where is price most likely going to gravitate to? It has to be 2800. Now, how is price going to get to 2800? That's always a difficult question to answer. So if you use this area right here, if you look at this area right here on the 8-hour time frame, so step down to the 8-hour time frame like this, So you look at this area, so now there's a trend to work with. There's an impulse, correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, now there's an impulse. So we took the buys here, I think last week. This is the, like, we did the buys here, and I was capping this area out. So how do you get involved on a pair like this, like right now? So you know already price is most likely going to test, say, 2800. So price is most likely going to test 2800. So how do you get involved? Do you start buying here so you can test 2800? So if you do a buy around here, so let me do something like this. If you buy around here, if you do buys around this area, and let's say you have your stop loss protected at an area like this, and you're targeting this, the risk to reward is like 0.6. It doesn't really make sense. But if you just sit on your hands a little bit and you're patient, you wait for this pullback to come in. So you can see pullbacks start coming in, doing all this beautiful stuff. As it starts moving again to the upside, the same trade that you're looking at, instead of 0.6%, you might get 3% or 4% on this move right now. So let's do this. So something like this, hold on. So you might see something like this. This is too big, so I need to reduce it like this. All right, cool. So you could see a move like this. All right guys, just hold on, let me take this out and do it perfectly. So if you wait for the pullbacks to come in, you get a test of an area like this. As price starts moving to the upside, then you can look for this possibilities to buy again. So something like this, and you get protected around an area like this. So you're looking at maybe 4% on the play like this. So that's what I'm looking at on gold. So you just have to be patient. Now this is the 8-hour time frame, so it's going to take time for this move to play out. It's going to take time for the pullbacks to come in. So the question is, can you trade gold currently on lower time frames? I would say yes, you can look at the buys on lower time frames, but it's always very risky. So let's say you step down to the 4-hour time frame. I'll take this off. So on the 4-hour time frame, there is this trend I'm looking at right here, but it's still risky to play with this right now. So the reason I'm saying it's risky is because price might pull back at any time. So just so we can get like price moving back to the daily trend line, looking at the levels around us, the daily area for us to play with. So again, on the 4-hour time frame, there's an impulse, correction, impulse, wait for the correction. So personally, if I see a correction like this on the 4-hour time frame, I'll probably trade this, but it's just going to be like temporal buys, just a little bit, just to see what's happening. So because now this can just continue moving all the way to 2800, so we might have a pullback. Let me make this clean. So we have impulse, correction, impulse. We might get a correction to an area like this, and we see buys coming in to take prices all the way to 2800. So if prices pull back, like, so let's say we get a pullback at an area like this to test this area, I'll look for buys at an area like this. But I'll be very cautious because we could see massive, so we could probably take the buys but eventually see sells coming in again heavily. So I'll just manage it differently. All right, cool. So let's look at this on the hourly time frame. So if you're on the hourly time frame, you have to wait. So I'll show you. Impulse, correction, impulse, wait for the correction to come in. Right around here, you look for those buying possibilities. So it's always very important for you to use the highest time frames for your analysis or for your direction. When you step down to lower time frames, you're looking for entries. So something like this, you're looking for entries around here. Price pulls back, you're looking for entries around here, and that it makes it very easy. So you have to wait for the pullbacks to come in, sit on your hands, and just let price do its thing, guys. So that's it for gold. So back to the DXY. I'm expecting this guy to sell, and I'm looking at 103, I'm looking at 102. It might even go lower than this. That's possible, that's still perfect as well. So that's what I'm looking at on the DXY. You look at US30, I'm looking for pullbacks, so I can do buys on US30. You look at NAS, I'm looking for the pullbacks on NAS, so I can do buys as well. You look at the S&P 500, I'm waiting for those pullbacks to come in so we can take the buys on the S&P 500. And when you look at gold right here, I'm waiting for the pullbacks to come in so we can take the buys, but this is on the hourly time frame, so tricky. Step back to the daily. So looking at it on the daily time frame, I'm waiting for the pullback to come in so we can take those buys as well. But if there's one pair I'll probably pay more attention to coming into next week, it's probably going to be gold, because on lower time frames I think I still have something I can play with. Say on the 8-hour time frame, I have this area to play with: impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction. So this is a move I'll probably pay attention to coming into next week on gold. And it's also easy because once you step down to like lower time frames and you see this pullback and this violation of this trend on the 4-hour time frame, which is the same thing I'm looking on the hourly, then we'll wait for prices to pull back so we can get this bias from the 8-hour time frame, and we'll take it all the way to the upside. All right guys, so that's it for me for this week. That's it for the market focus. And use the comment section, tell me what pairs you're looking at and tell me what analysis you're looking at as well. And probably I might be getting it completely wrong on the DXY. If you see something else on the DXY, just tell me. But personally, I know this is what I'm looking for, like pullbacks and sells on DXY, so we can see long-term moves on those indices and on gold. All right, if you see something else, just tell me. And guys, I hope you found this interesting, and if so, hit the like and subscribe button. See you during the next one. Bye for now.